We often spend our lives prioritizing comfort and avoiding the very things that challenge us. But a mind that only knows the easy path stays fragile, and it inevitably breaks when it meets the sudden weight of a real challenge. This graph of motivation shows a series of volatile, unpredictable spikes. It represents an emotional state that is too erratic to serve as a reliable engine for long-term progress. If your output depends entirely on whether or not you feel like doing the work, consistency becomes impossible. You become a passenger to your own moods, moving only when the conditions are perfect. The mind functions similarly to a physical muscle. It doesn't grow in a vacuum. It requires the resistance of struggle and the friction of difficult tasks to actually become stronger. Without that regular resistance, the psychological muscle atrophies. This leaves you vulnerable to life's unavoidable obstacles, like loss or failure, because you haven't built the capacity to endure them. True resilience is found by abandoning the search for motivation and replacing it with an engineered system of action, one that functions independently of how you feel in the moment. David Goggins didn't start as an elite athlete. At his lowest point, he was working in pest control, significantly overweight, and living within a mindset of constant excuse-making. To qualify for military training, he faced a massive physical hurdle. He had to lose over 100 pounds in just 3 months. He couldn't wait for a feeling of inspiration that might never come. Instead, he forced himself into a regime of extreme physical friction, running miles on broken bones and waking up at 4 a.m. to face conditions his mind desperately wanted to avoid. This sustained, intentional stress eventually shifted his physical and mental baseline, transforming him into a world record endurance athlete. His experience suggests that many of our perceived limits are actually mental thresholds. When a strict behavioral system is applied, the mind can be trained to override the natural urge to quit. Building this type of mental durability starts with voluntary discomfort. By choosing daily challenges, like cold showers or an extra set at the gym, you build a higher baseline tolerance for pain and stress. In this stimulus-response loop, an external trigger like anger or fear typically leads to an immediate impulsive reaction. Inserting an intentional pause severs that connection. It provides the space needed to stop an emotional wave from dictating your behavior, allowing logic to take over. The third component is reframing failure. Instead of seeing a mistake as a final outcome, it becomes a necessary data point that helps the system adjust and improve. These daily mechanics shift the focus from a fixed personality to a repeatable process. The more consistently these habits are applied, the more the mind moves from fragility towards resilience. It is essential to distinguish between a goal and a system. A goal is just the desired result, but the system is the non-negotiable daily action that actually produces it. True discipline is the ability to maintain that system regardless of external circumstances, fatigue, or your current mood. This divide between an event and a response shows that while only 10% of a situation is external, the remaining 90% is defined entirely by our internal reaction. Hardships will happen. That is an unavoidable fact. But while the pain of those events is real, the prolonged suffering caused by resisting that reality is optional. There is no such thing as a perfect moment to begin. Every day spent waiting for a better time is a day spent reinforcing your own excuses. Durable psychological power belongs to those who trade the short-term comfort of avoidance for the long-term discipline of a system. By mastering your own reactions, you reclaim control over your own life.